Hello and welcome to the Football 365 Isolation Show. This is, I guess, an FA Cup final special. I am your host, Mark Smith, and I'm here with Matt Stead, Deputy Editor of Football365.com. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Mark. I'm full of FA Cup magic. How are you?
Absolutely packed to the gills with FA Cup magic. I can't believe how much it is still flowing out of me. Let's get straight into it. I think, actually, I thought it was a really good FA Cup final. And I know it's been said a million times since. It just felt such a shame that there was no one in that stadium to watch it, because I felt like that was the best FA Cup final for a while. It had a lot going on. It had some really good goals, some really generally exciting flashpoints. It had one of the worst refs I've seen in a final for a while. But, you know, we start, as ever, with winners and losers. And this week it's pretty binary, isn't it? The winners have got to be Arsenal and Mikel Arteta.
Certainly does, yeah. And probably Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as well. It was, as you say, it was a very good final. It's probably the best this, probably in the last 10 years or so, really. Especially in comparison to last year, which was pretty much a whitewash. Whereas this very
done
much
by half-time, wasn't it?
Yeah, Arsenal kind of, I don't think they started as they'd wanted to, but after the drinks break, they pretty much kicked on from there. I think Chelsea kind of dropped off understandably because of Pulisic, but in terms of Arsenal, it's a massive boost for Arteta. And even if they didn't win, it's clear that he's taken them on leaps and bounds this season. But I think just having that kind of silverware instantly, that's tangible proof that whatever he's doing is working. So they're clearly on the right track, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. To win a trophy in your first season is huge. And it has become Arsenal's competition, hasn't it? I mean, they can't stop winning this tournament.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, they've won it a few times. Again, in the last 10 years or so, they won it 2014 and 2015, I think. And then they won it again in 2017 against Chelsea. But the problem they had was that none of the times they never used it as kind of a platform to build from.
Yeah.
It was always, it always seemed to signal a new era and a new kind of chapter in terms of pushing forward and going for the Premier League and maybe the Champions League. But they never really capitalised on it. They kind of dropped off. And that will be the key this summer in terms of they have to use this to sign Aubameyang to the new deal, to get Ceballos permanently, to make a few more signings to improve that squad. And to be fair to Arteta, he has been ruthless so far with Ozil, Guendouzi. And he has to kind of follow through on that this summer. But I think, they're in a good place. And as long as they do learn from the mistakes they've made when they've got to this stage where they've won the FA Cup or they've won a different trophy, as long as they can learn from those mistakes, and this time they can capitalise on what is an unexpected kind of, not a lifeline, but it's very much an unexpected boost for them at the end of the season to get European football, to get all the money that comes with it, to get all the prestige. They're going to be shopping in a different market of players, basically, whereas before it was a team that had finished 8th in the Premier League who were making promises. But they might not be able to deliver on, whereas now they've got an FA Cup, they can point to that and say, clearly we're going in the right direction. We know what we're doing here. There's something's happened, something's growing here.
Yeah, you're right about the previous times they won the FA Cup. It felt like they won the FA Cup despite the rest of the season, whereas this time you'd hope for them it would be a springboard to something greater. In terms of going forward with Arsenal, you mentioned Aubameyang there. I mean, after the match, Arteta seemed very positive, very bullish about his chances of keeping him. I mean, is that one of those things you're a bit giddy post winning an FA Cup final and you said something you maybe shouldn't have done? Because Aubameyang seemed much more sheepish about the whole thing. Do you, first of all, I mean, I'm going to ask you a prediction here. Do you, first of all, think that Aubameyang will stay? And secondly, if he doesn't, does that set Arsenal back massively, or is it a position they are able to replace?
I do personally think he'll stay. I think I know there's been reports that he kind of pushed for a move to Chelsea in January, which to me suggests he's happy in London at the very least. He's happy in the Premier League. He's clearly proven himself there. There's been no drop off in terms of his goals, in terms of what he was scoring in the Bundesliga. So I think from where Arsenal were in January to where they are now, if he was happy in London and that was a reason he wanted to stay around, I think he'll stay at Arsenal. I don't think they'll struggle to persuade him that they're going somewhere, that Arteta is the right man to take them forward. I think I think he will stick around. I think in terms of Arteta, he seemed pretty confident throughout in terms of the last 6 months or so when the questions have come up. I think there's something about Arteta where he exudes that kind of that calm, that assuredness. He's very much. I'm a bit reticent to compare him to Klopp because it kind of leads to obvious ridicule. Because I'm not saying he's going to win the Premier League in 4 years, but
right. You heard it here first. Matt Stead says that Arsenal will win the league next season with 100 points.
It is, yes, at the very least 100 points. But it's just in terms of kind of where Klopp picked Liverpool up and where Arteta picked Arsenal up. They were both not broken clubs, but they were very much kind of lost. They didn't know where they were going. There was no identity. And even in Klopp's first season, he struggled in the Premier League a little bit. He took over them in 10th, where Arsenal were when Arteta took over, and they both finished 8th at the end of their first half seasons. And they both reached cup finals as well. And they just changed the entire mood around the club. They changed in terms of the fan base, how the fans looked at them, because the fans were disillusioned and disenfranchised at Arsenal. And you can't really blame them in terms of where Emery had taken them. They just were completely lost. But Arteta's taken them in a completely different direction now, and they look really good.
And it's the habit of winning, isn't it? It's winning knockout games against big opposition. That's a great habit to get into. And if you can then go and, all right, I know it wasn't a packed Wembley, but it's still the biggest stage you can play on at the moment. If you can go and win a game there whilst you're the underdogs, whilst you're a goal down after whatever it was, 7 minutes, I think that speaks volumes for where that club is at the moment compared to where they were even, at the very start of the restart. Let's move on to Chelsea, though. So, other side of the same coin. Quite a fickle industry we're in, isn't it? Because had this been the other way around, the result, we'd all be praising Frank Lampard and saying what a great first season he'd had, wouldn't we?
We would, yeah. But the shame is now that I think he probably has to be sacked next week. I think that's just the nature of football.
Yeah, nature of the beast, Frank.
Yeah, sorry, Frank. I'm sure you'll get over it, mate. But it has been a good season for him, and they've. I don't think they've exceeded expectations. I don't think everyone tipped them to finish outside the top 4. There were certainly some people who saw that squad and thought, "There's enough there. There's enough quality. There's enough for Lampard to guide them." Nowhere near a title challenge, but at least kind of in the same
area. Be competitive. Yeah.
But
that's a crucial thing, though, isn't it? That he may not have exceeded expectations. He certainly hasn't gone below them. So it'd be very unfair to call him a failure, given that this is his second ever season as a professional football manager.
No, certainly not. It's been a good season. It's his first season in the Premier League as well. So you can't really. There's obvious flaws and obvious deficiencies in terms of. Maybe, I don't know whether you could say it's his coaching. Obviously, you've got a better idea in terms of his Derby sides, but I think a lot of what Chelsea is showing, I think it kind of happened quite a lot at Derby in terms of that defensive structure, that really exciting attacking, but you can't really rely on the shape at the back, which is the problem at the minute.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. It was. Not dissimilar to his playing style when he was playing at Chelsea in England, really. He would get forward and make things happen. But there would be times when, I'm not saying he wasn't industrious, but there would be times when he'd look over his shoulder and think, I can't really bother to sprint back 40 yards. And that does come across a little bit. It is great to watch. And I think that Chelsea fans are very appreciative of this compared to what they were watching under Sarri. Okay, Sarri won the Europa and finished top 4, and pretty good season, actually. But it's more in terms of philosophy, I think, what Chelsea fans like about Lampard. And, this is his first full transfer window. He's got an opportunity now, as he's already started with, he's got an opportunity now to actually address those issues at the back. There's no evidence that he's going to do that, by the way, but this is a chance for him to do it at least. And I think that they were very good in that first part of the FA Cup final, and then they sort of tailed off a little bit, and I don't know where they go from here. I don't know what the next thing is, but I'd be very confident if I was a Chelsea fan that things are going in the right direction at least.
Yeah, there'd still be excitement there in terms of the signings that they've already made this summer. They've obviously improved that attack, as you say. I don't know whether much of it was necessary, whether they should probably have concentrated a bit more on the defence, but there's so many months left, and they could easily do that. I don't know, really. There is obvious reasons for excitement, as we say, but I think the issue for me would be that as well as they started, Arsenal still had a chance after the 3rd minute. They had a similar chance, I think, after about a quarter of an hour, and then the goal as well. And they all came from the same thing, where it was a left centre half. It was pretty much Tierney, lobbing the ball over the top. Absolutely perfect ball for Aubameyang to chase, or for Maitland-Niles to chase. And every single time Chelsea were beaten on it, whether it was Azpilicueta or whether it was Reece James, it just happened over and over again. And
it was bizarre.
Yeah, when it kind of happens once, you maybe think, oh, it was a mistake, an individual mistake or something like that. But when it happens so many times, and when an opponent is clearly identified that and they're clearly targeting that, it's a problem and it's a weakness and it's a problem in terms of the coaching and in terms of the shape and in terms of the structure of the team.
And in terms of a plan B as well.
Yeah, but I think even if they do eventually sign some defenders this season, which kind of on the balance of probability, you'd assume they will do at some point. They might go for a keeper, they might get Rob Green back or something. But I think a lot of the issues they've got is it is to do with the structure and it is to do with the system. I think they could solve it to a degree in terms of individuals, but I don't think that's going to completely sort those issues out.
No. But as we say, I mean, he's very new to this. Jody Morris also very new to this. But there's reasons to be positive, I think. I would like to mention, I mean, I'm not a Chelsea fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought the refereeing yesterday was not good. For a game of that magnitude, I felt like it wasn't even the big decisions necessarily, you know. I mean, the red card, obviously, I don't think anyone thinks that was a red card and not a second yellow. But it just felt like lots of sort of 50-50s seem to always go one way. I felt like that free kick on the very edge of the box in the last minute, I don't know how he's not given that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, as we've mentioned before, Matt, but it just felt like if I'd been a Chelsea fan, I'd have been very upset at that yesterday. How much more help can referees be given to sort of negate this sort of performance? Or indeed, you might not even think it was a bad performance, Matt. Let's get your take on it first.
It was an awful performance. I will.
Okay, good. I'm pleased you said that.
Yeah, I'll clarify that. I'll underline. Did you watch on BBC or BT Sport?
BT. No, sorry, BBC. Yeah, with good old Danny Murphy having a good chin wag himself.
Yeah, I was going to say because you got the clip of the Friends thing at the start, didn't you, with Pulisic?
That's right. Yeah, the Football Focus thing.
Impression. Yeah. But I was just going to kind of ask whether you thought Taylor's performance was any worse than Danny Murphy's on co-commentary, because that was just absolutely diabolical.
Yeah, I mean, what a shame that we're talking about these things after the FA Cup final. The two biggest flashpoints are Danny Murphy and the ref. But look, the goalkeeper handling outside the box. All right, we can see that wasn't outside the box. But for the sake of transparency, let's just see that replay. Let's just see it, because otherwise you are going to get the conspiracy theorists, of which I am not one, Matt. I'll say again. Chelsea fans are going to look at that and say, well, why aren't they showing us this? And why are these decisions going against us? And why this? And why this? And why is Kovacic getting sent off for that? So, I mean, I just want to help the refs because it is such a difficult job. I appreciate that. And even without fans in the stadium, it is a hugely pressurised environment. But I just thought we had a poor one, and it's a shame that we're even talking about it.
Yeah, there just seems to be a disconnect there, doesn't there? Because you'd assume that bringing VAR in would be the assistance that refs need, the literal assistance that kind of...
Yeah.
The on-pitch referees need. They can look at the replays if they need to, even though they seem to be so reluctant to let them check the screens even mid-game, which, I mean, now, when there's no fans in the stadium, I don't see what the issue would be when everyone's watching on the TV now. Because the argument before was that there'd be too long a delay in terms of checking it. But why can't you check? I know there's reasons they couldn't check the Kovacic second yellow card because it's a yellow card.
Because it's not, right.
Yeah, but even then, it was clearly the wrong decision, and I mean, we could pick through the 90 minutes and pick out wrong decisions and good decisions in terms of the referee. That's not really the point. It's just in terms of VAR, they just seem so secretive and defensive.
It's just not fit for purpose. It's not fit for purpose. The way they're using it is like this is, the Toulon tournament under 17s, and they're trialling it there. I mean, no disrespect to that tournament, because that tournament should also be played and given the respect it deserves. But at least you'd understand them trialling something like VAR there, rather than doing what is basically a real-time trial period in the richest games in football. It's madness. Anyway, let's move on because we've got a quick mail to read out. This is about transfers and football transfers in general. We've finished the top tier domestic season, so within about 10 minutes, that's all people want to talk about is transfers. That is the nature of English football. This is from a mail from Professor David Ashinfuyo Yaboa, who I think we've had on before. He says, I'm finding it increasingly difficult and frustrating to understand Manchester United's transfer dealings. They've been linked to numerous players, but no serious bids have been successfully made. Chelsea has completed signing Timo Werner and others. City just joined the race for Ake, and I understand their offer has been accepted. Blah, 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 blah. Fans are frustrated with manifestly lacking transfer market activity. Right, let's unpack this, because there does seem to be this idea that the gossip columns that you read are, first of all, accurate, and second of all, of any value whatsoever. Matt, talk us through the disconnect between what we read in the gossip columns and what you think may actually be happening.
It's difficult to say, really, because in terms of what the gossip columns get and what journalists get, that comes from, ideally, within the club. And especially for, say, Manchester United, for example, they've become quite proficient at briefing certain journalists at certain newspapers, and it's so obvious because they all get the exact same exclusive, or all get the exact same time. At the same time, and they all tweet it at the exact same time. They all get the stories at the exact same time. And then there's the argument that journalists get their information from agents, which the problem there would be that they've got an ulterior motive as to why they'd put that story out there somewhere.
Right.
So I think there's only so much you can kind of read into quite a lot of. But
it's so exciting, though, isn't it? Even though I'm a cynic, it is still the thing that I will check at midnight every night. BBC gossip column, what's going on? Football365.com. Get on there for a bit of gossip as well. It's all happening. It's great. And I love it. I mean, we're talking about... Professor Yaboa there talking about Manchester United not putting in a bid. Well, they look like they're very close to getting Jadon Sancho from everything I've read. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But Sancho to United, could that be the start of the big transfer that starts a knock-on effect for other things around Europe?
It could possibly be, yeah. I mean, I think for the Premier League, I mean, aside from Chelsea, who I think we've said before are very unique in terms of how quickly they've got the business done, I think everyone's kind of waiting to see what the lower mark for the best players are and what the higher mark could be, because no one of note aside from Ziyech and Werner has really moved yet. Whereas Sancho could be the one that kind of breaks the ceiling in terms of that and breaks the ice for. If United do spend 100 million on him, then everyone else knows what kind of the market value they can kind of set it against that base.
Yeah.
But in terms of transfers, if everyone's going to still be complaining that no one's made any signings, like literally a day after the season's finished, when last summer Liverpool signed 2 literal teenagers and Andy Lonergan, and then they won the Premier League. I think we're at a stage now. All
thanks to Andy Lonergan, in my opinion.
Exactly. We're at a stage now where the game's gone, and because I've seen, to be fair, a lot of Liverpool fans who are complaining that they've not signed Thiago yet and they've not signed anyone else. It's just silly at the end.
Well, funny you bring him up. So I'm going to fire some names at you and clubs they're linked to, and I want just a yes or no, whether they'll be making that move. So Jack Grealish to Manchester United.
No.
Sancho to United.
Yes.
Ooh, a bit of a grimace there. So I'm not happy with that one. Thiago to Liverpool.
Yes.
Havertz to Chelsea.
Yes.
Okay. And Harry Kane to Man City.
No.
Not happening. Right, Matthew, that is all the time we've got for this week. Thanks for joining us very much. I'll next week or the week after, whenever you're on next. In the meantime, though, if you're watching this, you want to get in touch with the show, you can email us at theeditor@football365.com. Matt will read all of those and pick out the good ones, no doubt. That's what he does in his spare time, isn't it?
Yeah, bedtime reading, yeah.
Bedtime reading. All right, cheers, Matt. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.